Hi, Sister Moms. While we hope that you enjoy listening to the Four Moms podcast and find it helpful, it is not intended to replace a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. If you have questions about finding a mental health provider, please email us at fourmoms827@gmail.com and we will send you a list of resources.
We are Four Moms, a platform intended to uplift and empower those who listen so that they find their voice, seek healing, and recover their strength. It is our hope that in tuning into Four Moms, you find a community full of laughter, thought provoking conversation, and you see a little bit of yourself in each one of us because we are four daughters, four women, and four moms here for you.
Hi, Sister Moms. Welcome back. Come on in and have a seat and chat with us.
Thank you for tuning in today. To get started, we picked a question from one of our viewers. The question for today is, what is your superpower? So I'll get started. My superpower is that I'm like the ultimate multitasker. I go to school, I work, I take care of Abby, but even in like one moment, I can have like 10 conversations, fix a boo-boo, clean up the house, and dress up as Elsa and sing Frozen songs all at once. Earth, what's your superpower?
My superpower is spatial awareness. Tetris was my favorite game when I was little growing up. And I feel that when it comes to packing, if you have a small room, I'm able to figure out how to make things fit so you have enough space to move around. So, Shanique, what's your superpower?
I would say, I think my superpower is hearing truth. Oftentimes when folks are feeling overwhelming emotions, sometimes they can look angry, sometimes it can look like disrespect and a bunch of other stuff. But I try to really focus on what the underlying message is. And usually it's a lot of fear and other stuff. So I think I'm pretty good at hearing truth and vulnerability.
That's definitely a gift. So for me, my superpower is just being resilient. Been through a lot, like on the grief side of my life, like a lot of loss in my life, immediate family members, deaths, and things like that. But still being able to press through and like meet my goals and still be a mom, still be a wife, and and still be a boss. So that's my superpower. So we'll turn it over to Herb to talk about some tea time trending topics.
So it's tea time. Everyone got their mug. So it's 9 days to Election Day. Election Day is November 3rd. So this year, due to Corona, there's a lot of things going on. So I suggest that everyone look at their state guidelines regarding if you're going to vote by mail, vote in person, vote early. And if you're voting early, if you haven't seen the news, there's been a lot of lines outside of polling stations. I suggest you pack a chair, pack a snack, your tablet, make sure your phone's charger, you have a portable charger, so you can watch whatever you need to do, watch whatever you need to watch before you go in, because there's long lines. I've heard of people waiting 3 hours, 4 hours just to go vote. What else? And also, just voting important is very important as African American women. It took us a while to have a vote. As women, it took us a while to have the right to vote. And as a nation, it's very important that we vote for our senators, our congressmen, our mayors, our student school board, just to we can determine what lives we're going to have in our community and what lives our children are going to have in the future.
Yeah, and I just want to interject. I was just going to say, a lot of people think the presidential vote is, like you said, the only vote, the major vote, but it's actually the local votes that count even, more, because they make those decisions, which eventually, trickle up, the line. So super duper important. Yeah, that's all. Just wanted to add that.
I do have to add one thing. So when I got my ballot this year, a lot of the people that were after the congressman, I didn't know, like my local town board of ed and stuff like that. And I thought that was weird because when I first moved to this town, people were walking around and handing out stuff. And I know due to Corona that they couldn't, but I at least thought I was going to get something in the mail so I could read what they were about. So it was a lot of seeing if they had a Facebook page, going on my town's website just to get more information about them. My daughter's 1.5, so a lot of things don't affect her as far as education wise, as far as a school board. But I definitely spoke to my husband about getting more involved in the school board before she starts school, so I know who is going to be there. Because I don't know if you guys know, like, they're on it for a very, even though they get elections every 4 years, 2 years, they're on it for a very long time because people are just used to seeing the same faces over and over again. It doesn't change. I know whatever else.
Yeah,
Kids
the
have.
parts are like, just do your research, right? And make sure
Yeah.
you know who you're putting in the office and know who's like, it's a system of check and balances, like what Kalima said. And every vote counts, every vote matters. Don't think that your one little vote won't make a difference, because it does make a difference. Make sure you talk to your family members and make sure they're voting. If you have first time voters, make sure they know how to fill out the paper ballots. Make sure you're helping like elderly people fill it out. And if you are helping, there is special places that you need to sign to say that you are helping. So make sure you're just doing everything like to the dot, crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. Yeah.
Oh, and the questions in the back, the questions that they ask for your state, if there's something coming up for legislation, they were asking you questions on the back about, and most people don't look at those questions. There were 3 in New Jersey this year. So, next topic, Alnisa.
Okay, so being one of the younger ones in the group, I'm always looking at the most recent memes that are going on. And this one meme sparked a lot of debate on social media recently. It says, a man will know if he wants to marry you 6 months in. He doesn't need 4 years. Oh, I see Dr. Lamb sipping her tea. And Kalima, okay. And it kind of goes in line with this meme that came up a few months ago saying, like, I'm not gonna have my man die and be his little special friend in his obituary. So I just want to know, like, for all my married moms, what do y'all think about that?
Yeah.
Kalima?
So she called on me is funny because so my husband and I, we didn't date long at all. We dated literally 6 months before we got engaged. Of course, I had known him for some time, but not in the context of like a lover. It was just a friendship. He was younger than me. I wasn't even thinking about him like that, right? But like once we did start dating and we were at a mature enough age to really know, like, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, it just flowed. And I remember like we said I love you like within like a month, like, I think I love you. I love you too. Like, okay, cool. Like it wasn't a deep like epiphany that we both had to have. We knew it was gonna come. And then like a year after we dated, we literally got married. So obviously everybody's situation is different, right? But I think for us, like I know for a fact that he knew I was his wife within a month, like just right off the bat, there was no real hesitation there. So, and we're 8 years strong.
Yeah, I agree with Kalima. I think that every love story is different. But I think that to some degree you have a feeling that when you meet this person and the first couple of meetings or the first couple of months, if this is something that works for you. I jokingly say this about us, that only things that God bring together work this well. So you kind of just know if things are working and if it makes sense. And I knew immediately that my husband was a different type of guy, but I kind of waited it out. But we were engaged at the 7-month mark, but he told me after 4 months he had purchased a ring and he was just waiting for the right time. So again, every love story is different, but I think that that's worth talking about. And there's probably some factors that impact, readiness and timing, and if you want to set a boundary or not, your age, your goals, whether you need to be married to have children, like all your religious views, all these kinds of things might matter. And you may feel like you have more time if you're a younger person, right? But if you're someone who is maybe up in age and you're getting closer to some of your life goals, maybe you want that shorter time and say, okay, I should know by 6 months. But whatever it is, whatever you want, make that very clear.
So for me, it was 9 months when my husband proposed to me. I was ready to be married. I explained to them after my first couple of dates that I'm in a business to getting married to someone. It don't have to be you, but my next relationship needs to be with my husband. So if you're not ready for that, it's time to move on. So he understood that, and it did take him some time to come around, but to with him, he wasn't in a lot of serious relationships, so he just wasn't sure. But as we grew together, and I think the best relationship is when you guys both grow together and grow individually, and then you realize that I was the one. And he proposed.
So what I'm hearing is that we as women need to set these boundaries. We need to be clear. We need to be comfortable with being alone first. We need to be comfortable with, learning about ourselves so that when we get with someone else, we are not necessarily being completed, but we are being supplemented. And I think that's like a big problem or different theory or mindset that a lot of people like around my age has. We're looking for someone to complete us when we should come whole and just be moving up and, like Earth said, growing together and individually. Like Shani said, Dr. Lamb said, there's a lot of different factors that would come into play that you should have those conversations beforehand. But I think it all comes down to when they know. And I refuse to be someone's little friend.
And if you think about other cultures and how quickly you see maybe your other friends get married and stuff like that, it's all about growing together. You don't know everything. And I rather figure out things with a partner that knows I know that's like my ride or die and like right next to me than doing it on my own or doing it with someone that I think that may leave me in a couple of weeks or we're not sure where we are. I'm not going to be vulnerable with someone that doesn't have that in mind because we're clearly not growing together as far as our relationship.
Years ago, I was doing some interviews with Black couples and just exploring issues around intimacy and commitment to marriage. And an older couple shared with me that it's really important for you to be the partner you wish to attract. So whatever it is that you're looking for, you have to be that and you have to offer that for a lot of reasons. But one of them is that then you'll have the confidence you need to say what you want. You won't tiptoe around it and shy away from saying this is what I'm looking for, because you'll know that you're offering that also. And if they can't deliver, that's okay. There's no hard feelings, but this is who I am. This is what I offer. And this is what I like in return. So that's something that stayed with me. Like, if I want this type of partner in my life, I have to be that too.
That's so true. Thanks for sharing, ladies. I love this conversation, which we'll keep continuing. So let's transition a little bit. We wanted to talk about a more sensitive topic because it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So DV for short. If you know anything about it or someone that may have experienced it, or you may be a victim yourself, which I'll speak about in just a moment. Just some background. Domestic violence, National Domestic Violence Awareness Month was started in 1981. And it does affect men and women alike, right? So that's something that people don't talk about. Like, they think it's just a woman issue, but it's actually a both gender issue. So ongoing, situations that happen every year, and it affects literally millions of people. So just to share a little bit about my story. So when I was 17 years old, I started dating this young man in high school. I was super young. And long story short, he seemed like he had it all together. He was like the star football player. He seemed, he lied a lot. Basically, it was a lot of lies. He said he had it all together, had a scholarship and all of this stuff. And I didn't do my research. I was 17, young, kind of just all, googly eyed. Didn't really know this guy, but just, believed most of the things that he said. And it was like perfect at first. Like, it was just, a great relationship. And then I started to notice like him wanting to control my friends, him wanting to control what I wore, where I moved, lying, manipulation, kind of just having full control over me. That's where that power part, came in. And then again, just started to like use fear tactics and threatening my family. And it just got escalated like really quickly. Especially the fact that I went to college out of state. I went to HBCU for a little bit, Hampton. And when I went down there, that's when he like lost it, because I was away from him. He couldn't see me. He couldn't control me. So he was like constantly accusing me, to the point where he was threatening me, threatening to take his own life, threatening to hurt my family. But I never shared any of this with anybody, right? I was going through all of this alone, mainly because I had a really big brother. He's huge. And I was like scared that my brother would do something to him. So I'm trying to protect my brother and him. But in the process, you know, I was holding all of this inside. This guy was stealing money from me, physically assaulting me and everything. So it had got to the point where I went to get a restraining order. And at the time, they told me I didn't know him long enough to get a restraining order. And I'm like, wait, there's a time limit to know somebody? Like, so that discouraged me. So I didn't take that route anymore because I was already discouraged, you know, by the police, right? Um, so all of these things basically happened to me my first year in college, which led to me like not being able to function in college and not being doing well in school and being able to, you know, focus on my grades and what I was really there for. So just saying all of that to say that, like, if you are a young person, and trust me, I didn't come from a family where I ever seen anything domestic violence. I've never seen my father hit my mother. I've never been a victim of abuse until that time. So obviously, you know, you think that only women or men that experiences have experienced it in their home, and that was not the case for me at all. This was just something that just happened. It came out of left field. So just knowing the signs and knowing what to look for, whether it's your daughter or your son, really researching it. We don't have time to go through all of it. It's just really, really key. So I just wanted to share that. I know Shawnee has more to share. Sorry, Dr. Lamb.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say, just be aware that abuse takes on many forms. So it's not just physical abuse, there's verbal abuse, there's emotional abuse. If you or someone you know is being abused in any way, be aware of that cycle because there is a cycle. It's a cycle that gives folks hope that it's going to end, and that's why things continue to go that way. But there's usually a buildup of tension where either party is walking on eggshells and trying really hard not to upset the person who's the abuser in particular. Then there is an abusive event where the person is overwhelmed and acts out on some of their rage. And then there's this honeymoon period where there's a lot of broken promises, where there's a lot of this won't happen again, or maybe even if you don't do these things, or if you listen to me, we won't be in this type of situation again. So that is the cycle, and unfortunately, a lot of folks get stuck in that because the honeymoon, phase can last a while and give you hope that that type of situation would end. Of course, safety is huge. So we just want to give a few tips around staying safe if you are in this type of situation. We realize that it can take time to get out of an abusive relationship because, there's more involved than, your physical being. There's your emotions, sometimes finances and things like that. So ask yourself a few questions. Ask yourself, is there anyone else who knows about this? And if there's no one I've told, who can I tell? Is there anyone I can call in an emergency? So think of 1 to 3 people you can call in an emergency situation. Start to think, are my finances independent of this person? If not, how do I get access to money so that I can be independent and move if I need to? Try to identify 1 to 3 places where you feel safe, where that person doesn't have access to you. It could be a family member house, a friend's house, a place of worship, or some other type of facility. And then ask yourself, in a very hectic situation, if you're in an emergency and you have to get away from them immediately, what are the things you would need? Okay, would it be, house keys, car keys? Would it be your license, different IDs? Whatever those things are, pack a bag and have those things in that bag. Even if it's a copy of your car key, a copy of certain things, keep those things in a safe place where you have access to them and that person isn't aware of it. Because unfortunately, we know domestic situations can escalate and sometimes you have to move fairly quickly. And we want you to be as safe as possible and have access to all of your resources.
I do want to touch on the resources. I do want to take a moment to highlight the fact that domestic violence doesn't stop for a pandemic. So if you are in need or if you know someone who is in need, I'm going to give you some resources now, but we have a Facebook page where you can send us a private message or an email address that's listed in the beginning of this video where you can send us an email and we'll provide you with a list of resources. As a victim of domestic violence myself, there are a few resources that I personally had the opportunity of using. The first one was Partners for Women in Justice, who does help with free legal help for obtaining a temporary restraining order and your final restraining order. There's also the Victims of Crime Compensation that helps with relocation, and the City of Newark has the Shani Baraka Women's Resource Center. But again, if you need any further resources or help, please feel free to reach out to us. Now we're just going to get into some like questions that we had some submissions for. So the first one was, how do you support a friend who is in an unhealthy relationship? And I'm going to shoot that over to you, Miss Earth.
So, as a friend, I feel like you need to be there to listen and to see what they need. Not to put yourself in their shoes, but to really understand what's going on and how you can assist in another way. But also, as a friend, you have to make sure that you protect yourself and you don't become involved in their situation or domestic violence situation. So being there to either be the place where she can go to, maybe she gives you her money so you can hold for her to have. Maybe you can open up her a bank account so she'll have access to. Maybe your house is that safe place that she can go to for help. But I would just say it's very hard because sometimes hindsight's 2020 and maybe you don't see what's going on. And I've seen a lot of situations where like, oh, are you sure? Like he seems really nice. Like takes care of the kids really well. He provides for you. And I always hear the question like, are you sure you could just deal with it? And I don't know how any friend could sit there while their friend is hurting any emotionally, physically, and not just be there to support and be there for them when they call. So, um, it's a tough subject because you have your own family to worry about and to make sure they stay safe too, because no one knows how far this person will go.
Yeah. And I think you hit a point, like for me, like I mentioned, I didn't tell anybody, right? And then that like allowed me not to get help, first of all. But like if somebody is sharing that with you, like not being judgmental, like you said, just hearing them out, because everybody's domestic violence situation does play out different. And then like just taking this whole thing out of our mind, like to help empower women that we can do it alone, especially when children are involved. Sometimes we think I need a man, you know what I mean? I have to have a man because of finances or whatever, but you can start over. Like Anissa said, there's endless resources, there's endless support groups. You'll be surprised, what's out there, like once you look. So I think that like when children are involved, people are liable, most likely to stay a lot of times because they don't want to break up a family, or because they're worried, or if they're a stay-at-home mom or whatever it looks like, they fear they can't get out. But I know one thing that would have woke me up is like, is this normal? Like, have you seen this? You know what I mean? Like sometimes it becomes your norm. But like, for instance, a lot of abusers will make you distance yourself from your family members. Like they'll cut them off completely. And like, that's not normal, especially if we came in together and we were good. Our family was good. We had a good vibe. We had a good relationship. Like even a friend just flagging those basic things to you, like this is not normal behavior. You shouldn't be distant from your mom or your dad or whoever, like those small subtle things will really awaken that person possibly to really realize. So sometimes they don't realize it's abuse. Sometimes you don't think about, you don't see yourself as somebody in that situation, because like myself, I never thought I would be in that situation. I always said that would never happen to me. I wouldn't tolerate that. I would do that if I was in this situation, but you never know what you're going to do till it happens to you. So just being there.
As someone that was in an unhealthy relationship, I feel like the type of support that I was looking for was someone to kind of be my voice. I kind of lost a sense of who I am, or that power to fight back, and I think like you have to know your friend, right? In order to be a supportive friend, you have to know your friend, and you have to know that sometimes asking for help is hard. It's like the hardest thing you can do. But sometimes they need that push, or they need someone to make the phone call for them, or to pack the bags for them. So just knowing your friend, taking the time out to be there. One of my closest friends and I, we have this thing where we say, I need to talk. And the question that comes after it is, do you need advice, or do you need to just vent? And I feel like that type of, support system goes a long way with helping like that friend outside of that unhealthy relationship. So just, taking the time. And I know it's busy. We all have our lives. We all have our kids, school, work, things like that. But when someone comes to your mind, check on them. take a moment to step back and say, how are you? Is everything okay? Because you never know. And be willing to hear the answer. Be willing to hear, no, everything's not fine, and act accordingly. Now, even a lighter subject, it's almost Halloween. Yay! So we're going to talk about some Halloween preparedness, whether or not you're trick-or-treating in this pandemic. And we have some great advice for you and resources for you too. Miss Earth is going to be a pro at this for us.
Hi, I'm not a pro, but I've been looking into ways to keep my family safe and my little ones safe during this trick-or-treating season. So Halloween is actually on Saturday. So it's a great day to be out, right? So, but we need to be safe. So everyone's dealing with the pandemic. So you should also always follow your local, state, town guidelines, and also the CDC guidelines too, to make sure that you and your family are safe. I would suggest getting a fanny pack. If you are taking your children trick-or-treating, you could have extra masks in case their masks break. You can have hand sanitizer, you could have wipes, and you could have your hands at your disposal, especially if you have to take a kid away from candy if they're trying to like run and get it. And especially because even though it is Halloween and it is a day to have fun, there are people that do bad things to their candy, and maybe someone will put a big bowl out thinking that people just grab, which is not safe during this time because of Corona, that you have to like be ready to take your kid away from that bad situation. And if there's a lot of people out trick-or-treating, you need to make sure that you still remain to 6 feet apart. Also, if your kid is wearing a mask, it is suggested that the kids should also wear a face mask under the mask. So I think you should really think about what costume you're going to pick for your kid, because that would be a lot to have a face mask on and then the costume mask. So that is one thing. And just think about your neighborhood. Do you even have trick-or-treaters? Do you even need to put yourself in this very stressful time? Two, I don't have a lot of trick-or-treating around my town. So I might have got 10 kids the first year, maybe 20 kids the next year. So don't get a lot of candy because they're just going to go to waste. This year, I will be putting up a little garland and putting clothespins and individually wrapping each candy in Dollar Tree plastic bags because they're $1, and putting it on a garland. So it's safe, people just come up and just snatch it. I don't have to see them. They don't have to see me. It's safe, and they could just, go about their day. So those are little things that we are doing as a family to make sure that we are safe. Does anyone else have any ideas?
Yeah, I am. We get a lot of trick-or-treaters. We jokingly say our block is hot on on Halloween because they come all day. I've even had folks come 9:30, 10 o'clock. And it's just a lot. So I'm concerned about all the interactions. So what I plan to do is to put a table out in my pathway. So it will block people off from, being able to walk up my path, but I want to decorate it, put a sign there that says, please be sweet and take one treat, and then individually wrap a few pieces of candy in those, Dollar Tree baggies. So I want to celebrate and I want kids to have fun, but also want to be safe. So that's our way of, doing our part in the community, but staying safe.
I also, I forgot what I was watching, but some parents are not taking their kids trick-or-treating. So they're actually decorating each room in their house to allow their kids to trick-or-treat in their house, and they have a theme going on. So I thought that was a very cute idea. Or you could just make sure you trick-or-treat at people's houses that that are also dealing with Corona the same way that you are.
I like to look at a lot of my local Facebook pages and see what's going on, like what the different businesses and organizations are doing. And a lot of them are doing like a drive-through trunk or treat. So I signed up for a few of those. We stay in our car the whole time. I'm going to sanitize as I pass the candy back, and you just have them dress up. They can still have the effect of getting in a costume, going out for Halloween, seeing the decorations, but we're staying in the car, so we're staying socially distant, keeping our mask on as well as our costume mask, and still getting the treats of candy. All right. So now we're just going to enter into our Mindful Mommy Minute by
Oh,
Dr. Ham.
it's time for the Mommy Minute. So this week, we would like you all for your Mommy Minute to become familiar with the power of no. Okay. It is okay to say no. It is even better to set limits with folks. Sis, it's okay to pull back on some things and to say no without an explanation sometimes. What we know is that during this holiday season and COVID season, that things become overwhelming and we're being pulled in a lot of different directions, especially if you're doing virtual learning and working. So it might mean that we need to pull back so that we can focus on ourselves, focus on our homes. So we encourage you to do that. Understand the power of no and how it can be a stress reliever to step back from some things. Alnisa?
I just want to thank everyone for joining us today for our Sister Moms talk today. Be sure to make sure you take care of yourselves, practice the power of saying no, and tune in for our next chat. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all podcast forums. We look forward to chatting with you soon. Bye.
Bye, Sister Moms.